I had a discussion with somebody last night, an in-depth discussion about raising children. It came up because I was joking, I mean, sort of, but like just about how I have planned to make a video called How to Raise Children. And so it's a joke amongst my friends, and it's funny because I, of course, do not have any kids. And so, I just kind of bring it up just to put a smile on people's faces. And, it's a thing to talk about, anyways. It's just kind of silly. It's just kind of me, anyways. And so and she works in that field, something to do with social services and that kind of stuff. And we were actually celebrating her graduation. She did something, anyways. And so we always enjoy sitting there and talking with this person. We have come to the conclusion on multiple occasions that we're on the same page. Sometimes we have different ways of saying things, but at the end of the day, we're on the same page. And we always, it's always just smiles, even though the debates can be quite intense. We're not competing. It's not about being right and wrong. We're having a discussion in a mature way. And even though, there is intensity to it, we're just looking for answers. It's not an ego thing. And so, just as this stuff is fresh, and so my standpoint, the sort of the where I'm coming from, is that so I have there are people in my life that have kids, and I have seen what at least my perception of the dynamic that takes place between parents and children, how different people handle the situation, and how they handle the kids and stuff like that, and then the things that the kids do. And so I have my perspective from an outsider, and I think that it is, for me, it helps that I'm not caught up in it, that I have time to process it. It's not just a nonstop thing that I just kind of go from thing to thing. And I have time to really go into any one thing that happens and examine it in whatever way suits me. And so and so I have this with family members and also with friends, and it's interesting to see how these interactions take place between different people and their children, and how they handle the situation. And so I guess, so what is it? I don't write transcripts anymore, but I wrote something a long time ago, and it's got a bunch of key words in it. So it's like, the thing is that what's taking place is psychological. I mean, and I would say that the kids aren't aware of it, and whether you're aware of it or not, it really doesn't make a difference, because what is going on is psychological. I personally treat children in the same way that I treat an adult, with respect. I give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't look down on them in a condescending manner. I don't think that they don't have the capacity to understand something if you have the time and the capacity to explain it to them in a way that they can relate to and go, oh, okay, and so I am, my reference point too is so I was a child. I mean, I still am a child. I have not let go of my inner child. It's a part of me that always exists. And so, I know how I was. And it's like, say, when I was a kid, I didn't like being told things. I liked being shown stuff. I liked to be explained, but it's like if I was told to do something and I would question it, and then I would get in trouble for talking back or for not listening. And it's like, I wasn't trying to challenge you. I was trying to understand. I was looking for a teacher, not just an instructor, as a child anyways. And so So yeah, these are my reference points, and also the time that I spent taking care of other people's kids. There have been occasions when Uncle Josh had to step up and take care of, and um, and I always found that the situation was great. And then, we would have a great time. And then, but then as soon as one of the parents would come in, everything changes, because it's like the child knows essentially something to do with that relationship and very much about what they can get away with. So then they will like behave in a way where it's just like, 2 seconds ago everything was like tranquil and everybody was respecting each other and we were communicating and whatnot. And then as soon as things change, there's just a shift in energy where it just becomes about something else. And that kind of thing always boggled my mind. It was just like, what is it that's taking place? And then you hear a parent say getting upset, and then comes this intensity, and it's just like, yeah, well then, and it's just like, holy cow, it's like, you would never speak to me that way, but it's like you're speaking to a child in that way. And then what is the child's, it's not the words, it's the example. You're setting an example that it is necessary to use intensity in order to get a point across or something like that. So definitely some interesting dynamics. It's a neat relationship, unique to every person and their kids and an outsider such as myself. And so, yeah, it's a thing. It's like, trying to understand a child. It's like, if you don't even understand yourself, and how your mind works. It's not everybody's cup of tea, fair dues, but it's like psychology, like it or not, you're dealing with it constantly. It's like the relationship that you have with everything, with concepts and ideas and with other people, and the intimate relationship that you have with yourself, and just how you conduct yourself, your mentality, your attitude, and just the way that you approach certain situations. It's all, you don't ever get to escape any of this stuff. It is present in every interaction that ever takes place, and pretty much everything that you do, even when you're sitting somewhere meditating, like alone, like very still. There's still this dynamic, this relationship that is going on. And so that's the thing. And it's like, so what is it? Yeah, I feel like psychology, it doesn't matter that it's a child. It's not about that. It's psychology is psychology, whether you're a big child, which a lot of adults are, or a small child. It is the same principle. It's the same kind of dynamic relationship. This thing, this interaction, this interplay that is going on, and it is all the same. It's like respect is a thing. There is no level of like life where that it becomes a non-issue, where it's not a factor, where it doesn't like play heavily into basically everything. And so, yeah, it's not just about raising children. It's about raising the child inside. It's what I say sometimes is like, so I spent, instead of having kids, I wanted kids. I really wanted that. I wanted the marriage to work out. I wanted to have children and be a good father, but that's not what life had in store for me. And I accept that, and I still don't know what life has in store for me, and that's exciting. And but during the time though, I was able to raise the child inside, and so this has afforded me a bit of a different perspective, because it's, if you choose to, if you not choose, but if you have kids, you basically need to devote such a significant portion of your energy to being there, supporting, raising, educating, making sure that there's a hospitable environment, a healthy, holistic kind of place to nurture a child and whatnot. And if you're not doing that, I'm not going to say you're a bad parent, but it's what you're supposed to do. It's weird in my family, sort of the way of raising children was passed down through the generations, and it was not exactly super nurturing. But at the same time, I am a result of that, and I certainly wouldn't want it to be any different. I'm very proud of what I've been able to do with the hand that I was dealt. I didn't pull the victim card and, poor me and use it as an excuse or a rationalization or a justification for some kind of behaviors in my life. Be like, oh, well, because of da da da, and that's why I'm. It's like, yeah, no. And so yeah, that's a thing. I mean, and so it's like this thing about getting kids to do what you want them to do. And so how do you go about that? And it's like it's right here. It's like you'll never win by trying to use force or trying to control, to shame, to blame, to guilt trip, to trick or bribe. You're like, oh, okay, well, if you do that, then da 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 da. Or it's like, well, if you don't do that, then this is gonna happen. Like that's like using fear and using trickery and bribery. I mean, that's what you're teaching, is to be manipulative, to go about things in an indirect manner, to control, to instead of communicate, instead of learning pathways of healthy communication and whatnot. So yeah, using fear or reward or violence. Oh, you do that, I'm going to spank you, I'm going to hit you, I'm going to use violence as a method to teach. And a lot of people, it's like they think that violence is like, oh no, fear is a good thing, you should be afraid of your parents. It's just like, holy smokes, to unpack that, it's like I need to make another video, right? And so, or to be condescending, as a way to teach a lesson. I had huge issue with this as a child, when just like you can tell that you're being talked down to by the tone, the way that somebody is talking to you. They're not really treating you like a person. They're just dealing with you as something to be dealt with so that you'll go away. And you have to sort this out as a child, that you're not aware of this psychology thing that is going on. You don't quite get that, but something feels not right. It feels dirty. It feels incongruent. There's something, and certainly to do with, you get a hypocrisy too. It's just like, well, somebody they'll be like, oh, well, don't do that, but they essentially turn around and do the same thing. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very much about the example that you're setting, because that is what is being picked up on, whether you like it or not. It's not the words. It is what is behind the words. Is there integrity behind the words? Is there stuff like that anyways. So there's always a better way to communicate, to share a concept, to speak in a language which somebody can grasp, that will register with them, that they can understand, recognize, and respond to. The lesson, instead of being explained, should be demonstrated with consistency, as to not mislead. I mean, it's just like your essence, your very being, the way that you conduct yourself all the time, that is the teacher, not your words. It is not done, so like with kids do not take advantage of Uncle Josh, because Uncle Josh has self-respect. I don't tell children to respect me. I command respect from inside, and they can tell. They can pick up on your vibration. They can see that and it's just not like we don't have fun and laugh and joke and play, but you can tell when somebody has a certain sense of composure to them, where it's like, it's not about being strict. It's about having, it's like, no. Something that I love about the word no is that it is a complete sentence. Uh, it doesn't need any outside of that. It speaks for itself. No, and just how important it is to learn how to say that word properly without any unnecessary energy attached to it, in front of it, behind it, and in it, right? And so, no, because no means no. Um, Something that I love about no, and so like no means no. No is not your, when I say no, it is not your opportunity to try to convince me. This is not your first opportunity. No means no. And it's good to become comfortable with that. I practice saying, I don't do it anymore, but I used to really practice it. Just like, no, or just, no, no. The word no. I have another, that's a whole video on itself, but it's like learning how to say the word no in a respectful manner. It's not like no, or just like no. That's like, you're just asking for it, speaking that way with that kind of energy, that kind of intensity, because we can tell these things. We have faculties about us which are capable of perceiving, stuff, aside from just like the tone of a person's voice. If I don't like the tone that you're coming at me with, it doesn't matter what you're saying, because I can tell that you are not making an effort to have a healthy, respectful relationship. So it's like, yeah. And so there's the problem too, is like, get a lot of parents, they do this thing, is like they make idle threats. They say things that they don't mean. And like, they say, just manipulative. And that is what is being taught. You're teaching a child how to be manipulative by being manipulative. And so, being condescending, hypocritical, nobody respects those things. And so it's like, of course, the child is going to behave in a, is not going to respond well when there is this weird energy going on. And also, like, when you're talking to kids, it's not, the way is not using logic. It's not a calculation, because the child isn't operating on that kind of a level. They're coming from more of like an intuitive subconscious level, and where they know what they can get away with. And you can't just demonstrate that you will always cave in and expect them not to walk all over you. Being too soft, having weak boundaries, anyone, child or adult, will take advantage of you. I mean, not anybody, not me, right? But and so the way it is because you can't tell another person what to do. The only thing you can do is let them know how what they're doing is affecting you. You don't say like, be like, when you do that, this is what's happening, and I'm running out of options. I say this with people that I'm close to. It's like, if you say things in front of me that I really don't appreciate, I can't tell you what to do. But if you continue doing it, I'm going to start creating space between the two of us. And it's just not going to be possible for us to have a close relationship. So it's like essentially withdrawing love. It's like, my love is not a given. I love you, but you do not treat me in that way. You do not speak to me that way. Absolutely not. And so instead of pointing the finger out there, you always take it back to yourself. I think, everybody, we all speak the same language, which is the heart. There's, there's that thing, is that heart connection, where it's like, if somebody treats you poorly and you don't have to say anything, silence says so much more than a mouthful of words. You can tell when you've hurt somebody, when it's just like, wow, you just have no respect for me, the way that you're speaking to me, the way that you're treating me. I don't know what you think this relationship is, right? And it's like, and we're talking to a child, but it's important to not, to level with them, and I'm not saying that this is easy, but it is possible, and it's why I feel like sharing this kind of stuff. And and you have to take time for it to register, to be like, you know what, I need space because of the way that I feel like I'm being treated. Yeah, and then of course that registers with the person. It's just like, wow, this person's really hurt, where they're not just going to um, do things for me. They don't want to, entertain me. They don't want to surprise me or play with me, because it's like, it's important to communicate that, once again, not through words, but through behavior and consistent behavior, because inconsistency is just like, once again, like who, if you can tell that a person, they say something and then they don't really mean it, it's just like, well, it's just another one of these problems. And so, yeah, giving it time to sink in, to become clear how upset you are about whatever took place. It's an unspoken language, but everybody understands what it means when a person goes quiet. Here's a funny thing about, so kids will lie, thinking that they can get away with it, and that like that what they say is clever enough that nobody will figure it out, when actually it's like super obvious what happens, because as humans we have this capacity to piece something together, even though like a child will lie. I used to do this. You tell a story and you think, just because you've like illustrated certain things, that therefore, oh, it wasn't me, because and it's like, it was you, because we know it was you, because there's nobody else. And it's like, and that's something that you do. Kids these days, right? I don't know. And I don't have any kids, but